In the last class we studied the origin of the prayer to Saint Michael. We have seen that according to the testimony of Cardinal Nasali, based on what the Pope's personal secretary had confided to him, Leo XIII would have effectively seen a horde of infernal spirits over the city of Rome, and it was this vision that motivated him to write the continuous act, the prayer to Archangel Saint Michael, imposing it on the entire church as part of the prayers made at the end of private masses. But what did divine providence want to indicate to Leo XIII with his terrible vision of evil spirits? To answer this question, it is worth remembering that, as a rule, the powers of hell seek to impugn the Church of Christ not only with spiritual means, temptations, possessions, etc., but mainly using human means, of flesh and blood men who, as it were, do the devil's dirty work. Considering this, it is important to ask first of all the historical and political situation of Rome at the time of Leo XIII. It should be remembered that for little more than a millennium, in addition to being Bishop of Rome and the visible head of the Catholic Church, the Supreme Pontiff was also the civil sovereign of a group of territories located in the heart of Italy that were called Papal States, mentioned in the first course class. The existence of these domains was intended to facilitate the government of the Church for the Pope, giving him wide freedom to act without being entangled in an endless game of influences and political interests. There were, to be sure, alliances between the Holy See and the Holy Roman Empire. The Pope, however, always had autonomy vis-à-vis the Emperor, whom he even excommunicated a few times over the centuries. However, in 1870, during the pontificate of Blessed Pius IX, the Papal States disappeared once and for all, due to the military incursions of Victor Emmanuel II, head of the newborn Kingdom of Italy, who in September of the same year invaded the Eternal City, making it the capital of the kingdom and fixing his court in nothing more and nothing less than the Quirinal Palace, where the Pope used to stay and meet with the members of the Curia. In practice, this meant to the Holy Father, almost completely despoiled of both his temporal power and his autonomy of government, was reduced to the condition of a prisoner within the walls of the Vatican, now surrounded by enemies who, political disagreements at, on the other hand, they were fiercely opposed on a doctrinal level to the teachings of the Catholic Church. Indeed, the authorities which now rule Italy had a strong Masonic bent, and Freemasonry, as is well known, plotted countless times against the reigning pontiffs. This is clearly demonstrated by the various documents that Pius IX and Leo XIII wrote on the subject, in which the plots against the papacy, cunningly armed by the Freemasons, who wished to destroy from the foundations all the religious and political discipline that born of Christian institutions. Now, with the Pope's castling in the Vatican, the anti-Catholic and anti-papal climate that has long been breathed in many parts of Europe has become even more dense and close in Italy, especially in Rome. It was a climate heir to the ideas of the French Revolution, ideas of a relativist, naturalist, materialist, etc., and the popes could hardly fail to see in these maneuvers an attack carried out, yes, by human means, but inspired and directed by superior power, coming from the depths of hell. The remedy for this, according to Christian wisdom, could be none other than to intensify prayer. This is why, from Pius IX onwards, the popes began to encourage and prescribe prayers after Mass, in addition to recommending to priests the constant recitation of an exorcism, also written in his own hand by Leo XIII. This was not, as it was said in the last class, a normal exorcism because it should not be prayed over a possessed person, but it was aimed at freeing the entire church from Satan's snares. But what, after all, was its content? In addition to some opening psalms, he prescribed a new prayer to Saint Michael the Archangel, which actually had two different versions. The first, from 1890, stands out for its extension. Then one from 1902, reduced by order of Leo XIII himself, calls attention not only for its brevity but for its omissions in comparison with the first version, What explains this change? The reason is more political than spiritual. In fact, the exorcism, as stated above, was published in 1890, when King Umberto I, successor of Victor Emmanuel II, had been in power for at least 12 years, as the new king, even more than his father, was strongly opposed to the papacy and to rights of the Holy See. Leo XIII, introduced in the prayer to saint, was submitted at the time. However, 12 years later, with the assassination of Umberto I in 19 and the ascension of Victor Emmanuel II to the throne, negotiations between the Holy See and the Italian government finally began, and to pave the way for a possible agreement, Leo in the 13th century, the exorcism saw fit to press those passages that made a clearer allusion, and in a very energetic tone, to the injustice committed by the court of Italy. Well, what parts of the exorcism were removed by order of Leo XIII? The first was the following, which is but a description taken from the Apocalypse of the battle of Saint Michael and his angels against the infernal dragon. Fight today with the armies of the good angels the battle of the Lord, as he once fought against Lucifer, leader of pride, and against the apostate angels. They did not prevail, nor was their place found in heaven any more. But that great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, who deceived the whole world, and was cast down to earth, and his angels with him. And so it continued, interpreting the following passages from the Apocalypse. Behold, the ancient and murderous enemy arose with vehemence, transformed into an angel of light, with all the host of evil spirits. He circled and invaded the whole earth, so that in it he might destroy the name of God and his Christ, and steal the souls destined for the crown of eternal glory, and prostrate them and lose them in eternal death. The accursed dragon poured, like a mostly filthy river, the poison of his iniquity into men depraved in mind and corrupt in heart. He instilled in them the spirit of lying, impiety, blasphemy, and his deadly breath of lust, of all vices and iniquities. The most cunning hosts fill with bitterness the church, immaculate bride of the Lamb, and intoxicated her with wormwood. They set to work to accomplish all their wicked designs. Leo XIII refers here to the political machinations of Freemasonry against the Church, organized as true forces of darkness. He then refers to the historical fact of the occupation of Rome by King Victor Emmanuel II, who stripped the Pope of the Quirinal Palace, where the chair of Peter was seated. There where the seat of the most blessed Peter and the chair of truth to enlighten peoples is established. There they placed the throne of abominations of their impiety, so that, having wounded the shepherd, they would scatter the sheep. And he immediately asked by way of conclusion, Come then, most undefeated general, and give victory to the people of God against the spiritual perversities that break out. All the aforementioned passages were, therefore, removed from the prayer to the Archangel Saint Michael that was part of the exorcism. And the fundamental reason for this, we repeat, is that negotiations between the Holy See and the Italian government had finally begun. The first attempts, as it is known, will all be unsuccessful, and the work will end up being in charge of Leo XIII's successor, Saint Pius X. Now, with the change of pontificate, there will also be a change of perspective. If with Leo XIII on the one hand the wicked enemies who, at the instigation of the devil, opposed the Church, were outside it, with Pius X on the other hand, they will be in their own ranks, poisoned in from within. For Leo XIII, in other words, the action of hell against the Christian name was, as it were, embodied in Freemasonry. For Pius X, in addition to the Freemasons, the danger began to reside first and foremost in modernism, a summary of all the heresies already proscribed up to that time by the ecclesiastical magisterium. It is, therefore, as if the evil spirits seen by Leo XIII over the city of Rome had entered the church through some breach, and were making use of modernists in their satanic attempt to pervert the Catholic faith, For this reason, Pope Saint Pius X also decided to join the spiritual battle waged by his immediate predecessors, and add to the prayers at the end of Mass 3 brief but ardent invocations to the Sacred Heart of Jesus. As for the political question, it was only during the pontificate of Pius XI that the Holy See managed to reach an agreement with the Italian government, a conciliation that, however, was only able to resolve some problems, creating new and more serious ones, whose effects, above all the economic ones, persist to this day. This is how the devil, with his lying cunning, is setting up rules against the Church, which is, without a doubt, going through one of its most difficult spiritual crises today. The remedy against so many evils, there is none other than prayer, which is the topic we will be dealing with in the next class.